It was a beautiful night in Lagos. The wedding was grand, filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of champagne glasses. Everyone said it was the perfect wedding. Adanna looked stunning in her white gown, glowing with happiness as she said, "I do" to Kletchi, the man she had loved for years. Kletchi was well-dressed, smiling, and seemed like the perfect groom. He worked at a top oil firm and had everything going for him. But behind that smile, something wasn't right. While guests were dancing and celebrating, Kletchi told a few people he needed some fresh air. No one suspected anything. He walked out of the hall, but he wasn't alone for long. Waiting for him outside was his ex, the same woman Adanna had begged him to cut off months ago. Kletchi didn't look back. He didn't know that someone was quietly following him. Adanna's cousin, phone in hand, recording everything. She had noticed the way he kept checking his phone all night. Something felt off. And now here he was, holding hands with another woman on the night of his own wedding. The cousin didn't say a word. She just hit record and captured the moment that would turn a fairy tale wedding into a shocking scandal. Inside, Adanna was still smiling, thanking guests, dancing with her friends, unaware that the man she just married had already betrayed her. The perfect wedding? By midnight, it was all a lie. It was 2 a.m. when Adanna finally made her way to the bridal suite. The hotel hallways were quiet now, after all the music, dancing, and toasts from earlier. Her wedding had been like a dream. Big, beautiful, full of lights and love. Or so she thought. She still wore her wedding gown, the lace dragging softly behind her as she walked. Her feet were tired, her heart a little uneasy. She hadn't seen Kletchi, her new husband, for almost 2 hours. People said he stepped out for air, but her calls and texts were unanswered. She hoped maybe he had just gone ahead to the suite to rest. She hoped she was just overthinking. She opened the door slowly, expecting to see him asleep or maybe waiting for her with a smile. But what she saw made her stop breathing for a moment. There was Kletchi, shirtless, lying back on the bed. And next to him, laughing like she was the bride, was his ex. The same woman Adanna had begged him to stay away from. Their clothes were on the floor. The sheets were messy. And the bed that was meant to be her safe place, her first night as a wife, now looked like a cruel joke. They didn't even try to hide. Kletchi froze when he saw Adanna, but he didn't speak. The woman stopped laughing, but her smile didn't fade. There was no apology. No guilt. Just silence. Adanna didn't cry. She didn't shout. She didn't throw things or ask questions. She stood there in her white dress, strong and still. Then, after a long, cold stare, she turned around and walked away. Her heels hit the floor with a sharp, steady rhythm. Click, 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 like a war drum. The sound echoed down the hallway, louder than any scream. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. That one moment had changed everything. But instead of falling apart, Adanna's mind was already moving forward. She knew this wasn't her ending. It was her beginning. And the man in that bed? He had just handed her the power to change everything. While Kletchi was fast asleep in the hotel bed, completely unaware of what he had done, Adanna sat wide awake in another room. Her wedding gown was still on, though the joy that once filled it was gone. Her eyes were tired, not from crying, but from thinking. She didn't waste time begging or blaming. Instead, she picked up her phone and made a call that would change her life and destroy the life Kletchi thought was perfect. She didn't call her mother. She didn't call her best friend. She called someone far more powerful. Chief Duroja, the billionaire founder and chairman of the luxury oil company where Kletchi worked. A man Kletchi respected. A man he feared. And most importantly, a man Adanna had once met at a corporate event. That night, she remembered, Chief Duroja had been impressed by her intelligence and boldness. He told her she reminded him of the kind of woman who didn't wait for doors to open. She built the building. At 5:15 a.m., her hands didn't shake as she dialed his private number. The phone rang only twice before his calm, deep voice answered. "Adanna? Is everything all right?" he asked, clearly surprised by the early call. She smiled, even though her heart still ached. "Good morning, sir. I have a proposition. It's personal, and very public." There was silence. Then, with the cool confidence of a man who knew power when he heard it, Chief Duroja replied, Come to my penthouse by 8 a.m. She ended the call, stood up from the couch, and walked to the mirror. She wiped away the last bit of smudged makeup and removed her earrings. No more tears. No more waiting. As the sun slowly rose over Lagos, Adanna wasn't thinking about revenge. She was thinking about her future. About making power moves. About rewriting her story. And while Kletchi snored in a room filled with lies, Adanna was already walking into a future filled with fire. He had no idea what was coming next, but the world would soon find out. Kletchi slowly opened his eyes as the morning sun slipped into the hotel room. His head was heavy, and everything felt blurry. He sat up, still groggy from all the drinks and drama of the night before. For a moment he smiled, thinking of the wedding, the celebration, and the fact that he had gotten away with sneaking off with his ex. But when he turned to the side, expecting to see Adanna or hear her voice, there was nothing. Just an empty bed. No soft perfume in the air, no folded wedding dress on the chair. The room felt cold and strange. He called out her name once. No reply. He got up, checked the bathroom. Still nothing. No note. No courrier. Not even a message on his phone. It was like she had vanished. He felt confused, then slightly nervous. He grabbed his phone, hoping maybe she texted or called. But instead his phone lit up with dozens of notifications. People were tagging him. News alerts were popping up one after another. His hands began to shake as he read the top headline. Breaking. Oil tycoon marries mysterious bride hours after lavish wedding scandal. Kletchi stared at the screen in disbelief. Right there was Adanna, wearing a sleek new white gown, looking more powerful than ever, standing beside Chief Doroji, the billionaire owner of the oil company Kletchi worked for. The two were exchanging rings on a rooftop, smiling calmly while the world watched. It didn't make sense. How could this happen so fast? Why would she do this? His heart dropped as he scrolled through the photos and videos flooding the internet. Hashtags like hashtag from bride to boss, hashtag Adanna wins, and hashtag karma came quick were trending. Everyone was talking about her. No one was talking about him. She didn't cry. She didn't fight. She simply moved on, and did it in front of the entire country. Kletchi sank into the edge of the bed, stunned. The woman he took for granted had just taken back her power, and now, nothing would ever be the same. The internet exploded, and Kletchi had no idea how fast things would fall apart. Within hours, photos of Adanna and Chief Doroji went viral. They looked like royalty. Adanna dressed in a dazzling white gown that shimmered under the sun. Chief Doroji in a sharp designer suit. The rooftop ceremony was small but powerful, private yet fully public thanks to the photos that hit every blog, gossip page and news site. It was clear. This wasn't a quiet escape. This was a statement. One that screamed power, revenge, and grace. People across Nigeria couldn't stop talking. Everyone had an opinion, and almost all of them were on Adanna's side. The hashtags told the story better than any headline could. Hashtag wedding reversed, hashtag from groom to groomed, hashtag Adanna the boss, hashtag bride goes billionaire. They were everywhere. Celebrities reposted her pictures. Influencers called it the biggest glow-up of the year. Women praised her boldness. Men were shocked, calling it a chess move. Even those who had never heard of her before were now calling her Queen Adanna. Meanwhile, Kletchi's world was falling apart. He tried to explain, but no one was listening. People in his office avoided his calls. Friends unfollowed him. Even the woman he cheated with went silent. His confidence turned into panic. His phone rang, but it wasn't support. It was news reporters asking for comments, gossip sites digging into his past, and strangers leaving harsh messages. One tweet went viral. He married a queen and fumbled the crown. Kletchi realized too late that the damage wasn't just personal, it was public. The woman he thought would cry had chosen power instead. And the man who once thought he had it all was now just a trending topic. Only this time, it wasn't the good kind. Kletchi stormed into his office building the next morning, face tight with anger and confusion. He walked fast, shoulders stiff, eyes focused straight ahead. The whispers from social media, the news, the betrayal, the humiliation, it was all too much. He needed answers. He needed control back. As he reached the front desk, He tried to scan his office ID card like he always did. But the light blinked red. Denied. He frowned and tried again. Still nothing. The receptionist, a young woman he had passed 100 times without ever really noticing, looked up calmly and said, "Sorry sir, your ID has been deactivated." Kletchi blinked. "What do you mean? Deactivated? By who?" She didn't panic. She didn't stutter. She just gave a small smile, leaned forward slightly and said with full confidence, "By Mrs. Adanna Durojuiyi." For a second, everything stopped. Kletchi just stood there staring. His mouth opened then closed. He looked around, hoping maybe it was a joke or misunderstanding. But the security guards nearby were already paying attention. One even stepped a little closer. "Adanna," he finally said almost to himself. "She doesn't have the authority." He stopped mid-sentence as it hit him. She did have the authority now. She was married to Chief Durojuiyi. She was now Mrs. Durojuiyi. And she had done exactly what he never saw coming. She took the power he once had and made it hers. People in the lobby were watching. Phones were raised. Kletchi could feel his world collapsing in real time. The company he once worked so hard for, the position he used to brag about, the title he wore like a crown, it was all gone. Just like that. As he turned to leave, head lowered and hands clenched, he heard someone whisper behind him, "That's the guy who cheated on the queen." He didn't turn around. He couldn't. Because now, even walking out the door wasn't just leaving. It was being erased from a story that no longer needed him. Just days after the chaos, while Kletchi was still hiding from the public and trying to fix his broken image, Adanna stepped into her new role with quiet strength. She didn't just marry Chief Durojuiyi for revenge. She stepped into power like she was born for it. People thought she would disappear, or maybe just enjoy the luxury life quietly. But Adanna had other plans. She walked into the company not as a wife, but as a woman on a mission. She didn't waste time. Within a week, she launched a brand new division under the oil company, one that had never existed before. It was bold. It was powerful. And it was personal. The new wing focused on supporting women who had been left behind, betrayed wives, struggling single mothers, women rebuilding their lives after being broken. She called it From Tears to Thrones. The name alone sparked attention. It was like she turned her pain into purpose, and everyone felt it. Applications poured in. Women all across Nigeria wrote in, sharing their stories, asking for help, ready to rebuild. Adanna opened up scholarships, mentorship programs, and special training for women who had been told their lives were over. She even started a monthly forum where women could speak, cry, laugh, and learn from each other. And she showed up to everyone, not as a boss, but as a sister who had been through it all and come out stronger. The media followed everything she did. What started as a scandal had now become a movement. News outlets called her the face of grace and power. Women called her a role model. Men who once mocked her now admired her. She didn't just survive the betrayal. She turned it into a legacy. And the most powerful part? She never once mentioned Kletchi's name. Not in a single post, interview, or speech. Because in her new chapter, he simply didn't matter. Her story had moved on. And so had she. Kletchi had finally reached his breaking point. The silence from Adanna, the loss of his job, the public humiliation. It was too much to bear. Desperate to save what was left of his name, he decided to go on a popular morning TV show. He thought if he could just speak his truth, show some emotion, maybe even cry a little, the public would forgive him. He wore a simple suit, looking tired and thinner than before, and sat nervously across from the host. The show started gently. The host welcomed him and asked how he was doing after the eventful past few days. Kletchi gave a small, forced smile and said, "I made a mistake. A big one. I still love Adanna. I was confused. It wasn't supposed to happen this way." His voice shook a little, as if he was trying to sound broken. He continued talking, trying to win hearts. But just as he was warming up, just as he began saying, "If Adanna is watching this, I want her to know," something happened. The producer, who had been behind the cameras the whole time, suddenly answered a phone call. His face changed immediately. Without a word, he gave a signal. The host looked at him, nodded slightly, and turned back to Kletchi with a polite smile. Then came the words Kletchi would never forget. "We've run out of time," the host said calmly. "Good luck with your new life." Kletchi blinked. Wait, what? The cameras stopped. The lights dimmed. A studio assistant came over and politely asked him to leave the stage. He was confused, hurt, embarrassed. He had no idea that the call was from none other than Adanna. She didn't yell. She didn't send a lawyer. She simply made a call to the owner of the TV station, because she now had that kind of power. And just like that, even his apology got shut down. No trending hashtag. No sympathy. Just silence. Kletchi realized something brutal that day. When a woman like Adanna chooses to move on, even the microphone won't save you. After the scandal exploded across social media, the woman Kletchi had cheated with disappeared from the public eye. People searched for her online, hoping for a statement, a post, anything. But she stayed completely silent. No photos. No replies. No comments. It was like she had vanished. Some thought she had traveled out of the country. Others believed she was hiding in shame. But no one expected what came next. Weeks later, just when the noise had started to settle, she came back with one single video. It wasn't flashy. No makeup, no filters, just her in a simple t-shirt, sitting in front of her phone camera. Her face looked tired, her voice calm, but her words? They hit hard. She looked into the camera and said, "I was used. I thought he loved me. I believed every word he said. He told me they were just marrying because of family pressure. He said she didn't understand him. He promised me I was the one." She paused, blinked, then added, "But I see it now. I was just part of his selfish game." The comment section exploded. People who had once defended her started saying they understood. She wasn't just the other woman anymore. She was also a victim of his lies. And then she ended the video with one line that went viral instantly. "Karma came dressed in a wedding gown." That one sentence was reposted everywhere, on memes, tweets, TikToks. Everyone used it. It was like a punchline for poetic justice. Kletchi, already broken by Adanna's rise and the media storm, now had to face the truth that even the woman he betrayed his bride for didn't want him anymore. He had lost everything. His wife, his job, his power, his reputation. And now the only person who stood by him that night. Her video didn't just add fuel to the fire. It buried him deeper. And all over Lagos, people nodded, shared, and whispered the same thing. He messed with the wrong woman. And now he's standing alone in the ruins he created. Exactly 1 year after the day that should have broken her, Adanna walked into the spotlight more powerful than ever. It was the Women of Africa Power Gala, one of the biggest and most talked about events in Lagos. Photographers rushed to get the perfect shot as she stepped onto the red carpet, wearing a stunning gold gown that shimmered under the lights. Alone. Confident. Unbothered. Not a single trace of sadness in her eyes. Only fire and grace. People whispered her name as she passed. Not with pity, but with admiration. The woman they once thought was just a heartbroken bride had become a symbol of strength. Every step she took reminded them of the story. The betrayal. The scandal. The silence. And then the comeback that no one saw coming. Reporters called out to her, asking questions about her business, her new life, her foundation. But of course, someone finally asked the one question everyone secretly wanted to know. "Do you have anything to say about Kletchi?" Adanna paused. She looked straight into the camera with that calm, sharp smile the world had come to recognize. Then she said, "Some men marry a queen and still chase clowns. I chose to sit on my throne." The crowd gasped. The internet exploded. And just like that, she walked on, never looking back. She didn't need to explain. She didn't need revenge. Her glow-up spoke louder than anything she could say. 1 year later, she wasn't just healed. She was untouchable.